Welcome to Love and Lightning. First comes love, and then comes lightning. I'm your host, Nicole Pelham. Welcome to a soul-charged journey where heart meets power and is transformed in strikes of lightning. All waters lead to the same place, love, and in an ever-expanding universe, stretching and unfolding, sending out waves of love and light, you are not a small part. You are an outsized part of the universe's plan. Here on Love and Lightning, we explore the intersection of spirituality, science, politics, religion, and the one thing we're all searching for, love and acceptance. The kind that reminds us that the universe made us perfectly and that you are in this moment exactly where you're meant to be. Get ready to be inspired with hope for the future, strengthen your path, and bolts of lightning to awaken your soul. Welcome to Love and Lightning. Let's get started. Hello, beings. I hope you're having a wonderful start to fall and autumn. It is absolutely beautiful over here. And if you're on the other side, man, you guys are getting spring, and I'm just a little jealous. It's not that I don't love fall. It's so pretty. It's just I'm not great with the cold. I'm actually really trying to work on that. I'm like, can you manifest that? Yeah, I think we should be able to manifest loving the cold the way we love being hot. Like I love the sticky hot of Mexico and the Caribbean where you're just so warm. And I'm like, people hate that. So maybe you can learn to love being cold and not squeeze into a tiny, tiny ball. But anyway, fall is here and it's just absolutely beautiful all over. The color is changing. It's just fabulous. We were just driving down a beautiful street on the way home today, probably to go do this podcast, and I was like, oh, fall is just so pretty. I got to do some hikes. This week is manifestation, and I am so excited to talk about this one. This has been the episode I wanted to talk to you guys about for a while. Manifestation is something you're doing all the time. Like right now, ask the universe for what you want. Just go ahead. Just like right now, you're in your car, you're at work, you can whisper it. Just go ahead and ask right now. Boom, you manifested. And now your thoughts, actions will put energy towards that manifestation, towards its positive or negative outcome come according to what you believe in your inner heart. I've just had on the way here to drop off some coffee for my sister, the most wonderful discussion about manifestation with the barista. And she was like, oh, yeah, that's just so cool. And, where's the double slit experiment? And how does that stuff all work together? And it's just like such a cool conversation to have just before this. Because we talked a little bit about Jehovah's Witnesses, and I was reminded that Jehovah's Witnesses were really, really good at manifesting. That is like something that they were really good at. So this episode is on manifestation, and we will talk about that about how right now, if you've ever tossed a rock into a pool, it makes ripples. Have you ever tossed like sand and you see all of those ripples? That's what's happening right now. There are millions of people who are manifesting thanks to stuff like The Secrets. There's so many books on manifestation and so many people who are giving up manifestation. So there's a ton of people, millions of people who are manifesting right now. And all those waves are all bumping and converging and overtaking each other, and that's what's happening is we're all manifesting in this combined plane of existence. So that's why things may take a little bit longer or may seem like people get things unfairly, but we're going to discuss all of that in just a little bit. First, before we get started with all that, we have our good news clip of the day. And if you're like me, whenever you get a chance to see a good news clip, especially right now, it just fills you with such good joy to see people who are helping, to see environments recovering. So, hey, Sierra, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Can you go ahead and play that wonderful good news clip we got?
Of course, here it comes.
Doom makes the headlines, but the wins, they're even bigger. In Iceland, the nation has once again topped the Global Peace Index, the most peaceful country in the world. In Argentina, scientists have unveiled the world's first fully photocatalytic concrete. When this material weathers, it doesn't just stand strong, it actively scrubs CO2 from the air, turning buildings and roads into carbon sinks. In Singapore, a rooftop farm just produced over 5,000 meals a year using hydroponics, proving cities can grow food without soil. In the Philippines, engineers have deployed modular floating wave energy generators, platforms that rise and fall with the ocean to convert motion into electricity, powerful enough to light up entire remote villages without a drop of fuel. And in Switzerland, researchers have developed a solar panel that works in the rain, capturing tiny energy bursts from water droplets to generate power even on cloudy days. These aren't dreams, they're happening now, one breakthrough at a time. Follow at Earthly Goodness to see hope in motion.
I love her pages on TikTok. I'm sure she has an Instagram one too. So make sure to check her out amongst all of our other wonderful good news creators. That one was just full of such good news. The energy creation thing is just becoming massive. Africa has taken huge steps in energy creation, mainly because things have gotten cheaper. You know, that's one of those things that they talk about people who are of means are supposed to buy things, buy organic things, buy high tech things that are going to make the world better because we can afford to pay for it expensive. And then as the technology gets better, it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper for everybody else. And it's like one of those things I tell people about foods and about any of the stuff that you're supposed to, when you have the means to do the thing, the good thing, you're supposed to do that. And that helps to bring it down for everybody else because then they're like, oh, people do want organic food. We'll make more of it. People do want electric cars. We'll make more of them. That is how you bring more things into the world in just like a physical sense. One of the things I was thinking about that's not on my list at all was that all of those inventions are all manifestations too, right? Those are thoughts or ideas that people came up with, and they're like, hey, and probably had people telling them it wasn't possible, and they just worked on the idea and continued to put energy toward the idea until they brought that energy, until they brought that idea into the 3D space. I think about that with planes all the time because, the Wright brothers were told all that they could absolutely not make planes and there's no way we could fly. And now I live below an airport, so planes fly over me all the time. And it's just like, man, yeah, don't listen to other people. Just do what you want to do. That is what's super important. And that's what we talked about with the barista today was the importance of following your dreams, the importance of following your manifestations and your unique vision. And that's when the universe rewards you. Um, those good news clips, man. See, I'm gonna completely dismiss the good news clips because I have a whole bunch of lists. I have like Belize and Guatemala create a huge natural reserve. Create South Korea. Oh, man, can I not talk today? South Korea is printing 3D bones in the operating room. There we go. We'll have to do our that voice. So there's just so many wonderful things happening. The wind turbines, I don't know if you've seen that they've been painting them black, and it's just like such a simple idea, and now the birds see them, so they're not getting hit by them. I was like, oh, I hope lots of ideas are just simple fixes where people are just like, well, if what if we just do this? The floating platforms that they have for the oceans that are collecting the energy. I'm really hoping that they find a way to also make those to where animals can use them and not destroy them. Seals and sea lions using them for rest points and waypoints, things like that. We have a lot of them that rest here, and I'm imagining that we had a lot more shoreline and things like that that animals could rest on. So just more waypoints, especially up north when we're getting rid of a lot of the sea ice. My sister's like, there's no way they could do that, but there is. There 100% is ways to make waypoints up there that will last through the winters up there. So I'm excited for things like that that humans are creating just to bring back a lot of the nature that we have destroyed. I don't know if you guys ever heard about the dire wolves. People were like, oh my gosh, why are they making dire wolves? But it was an experiment to see if we could bring back some of our big species that will help to bring back some of the fauna that we've lost. So we used to have these big ground sloths here that were huge, bigger than bears, and they ate avocados and then pooped out the seeds and spread them around the forest. And we're learning that there's a lot of those big big herbivores that we killed when we moved into areas, and those areas need those to spread the seeds and to continue to grow the forest. So just cool projects like that with bringing back animals that we're gonna be able to do like kind of hopefully not Jurassic Park, but Jurassic Park-esque. Hopefully not the screaming and the dinosaurs, but maybe the nicer animals like the mammoths and the ground sloths. Those will be fine. Those will be fine. But yeah, all those ideas are manifestations. Those are things that people, they had the idea. People probably told them they were completely crazy, and then they worked towards that idea, or they found other like minded people who could help them work towards that idea, and they brought that idea out into the real world. And so that's manifestation. And you're doing that type of thing all the time. You don't really realize it. Like I said, I talked with a woman today at the little coffee shop, and we started talking about manifestation and how I used to be Joe Witness, and Jehovah's were very, very good at manifesting. It actually is something that they can do very well. There were so many stories, personal stories from people I knew where I could kind of verify their stories and see the money. Or, stories where we'd hear something from the Kingdom Hall, where, that someone would talk about some personal experience they had. But also, Jehovah's Witnesses had a poverty mindset that you weren't supposed to go to college, you weren't supposed to be on the internet, you weren't really supposed to go to be worried about schooling. You're supposed to just be just taking care of being Jehovah's Witness and spreading the word of being Jehovah's Witness. So that mindset kept people in a small mindset, even though they could manifest things that were honestly pretty amazing. The stories, both personal stories I hear from people, and then the anecdotal stories that you'd hear at kingdom halls and assemblies and meetings and things like that were really pretty amazing. So, and I personally had lots of abilities to manifest things, which I have carried through once I started getting back into spiritualism. Once I left the science world and went back into spiritualism, I was able to start manifesting a lot of things, including I thought about how I could show you guys this house, including this house that I live in now, which is a manifestation that I did with Ho'oponopono back just during the pandemic, like 2019, I think. That was when I was doing that, and I, started writing down what house I wanted and where I wanted to live. And I knew I was gonna live on the water eventually, but I kind of thought that was a 60s, when I retire thing, not something I could do in my 40s. And, boom, here I am in kind of my dream house. And so that manifestation, it worked with Po'oponopono, but I already knew manifestation worked from Jehovah's Witnesses. I already knew that there is something magical, mystical, special about both saying what you want out loud and then acting in a way that you believe it is going to happen. That the universe is like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. They're going to be famous. And then, then they get a call or they get picked for something. And next thing you know, they're on TV, from some YouTube video. That literally is how it works. I have friends who have manifested things that people just said they were not possible. They were like, oh, you can't, become a executive doing video games. You don't have any college. And that person just started playing video games. Um, Doing like answering questions for the company. Next thing you know, the company was like, "Wow, you're really good at like analyzing video games. Can you come in and work for us?" And she works pretty high in a high corporate job. No college. She didn't do college and she didn't do high school. And so I'm telling you guys that there is literally no limit to what you can do if you believe it. So that's what we're going to be discussing for the next 40 minutes or so. When we come back on Love and Lightning on Transformation Talk Radio, we'll see you then. I love that music so much. Welcome back. This is Love and Lightning on Transformation Talk Radio, and I am Nicole Pelham. I was just discussing with Sierra that this is actually my second to last show in my first season. The next show on November will be my last show, and then after that, I'll be taking a break all the way until probably June again. I really liked this time. June to November just seemed to be a really good time to do these podcasts. So I think we'll do that again. So this is the second to last show, so I'm super excited. So I'm glad to be doing manifestation. I've been wanting to do this one, like I said, for a while. But I've just have been worried about giving people things that may not improve their life. There's lots of manifestations that I could give people that, you're manifesting and you would just be, oh, that was what the video was, Sierra. I just remember what it was. It was an Instagram video. I accidentally like copied two links on here to show a video, but it was a guy who was staying in the mirror and he was like, I'm really having a hard time and I really need more, 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 more. Well, I feel like I'm lacking in money, so I need more money. Lack, 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 lack. Because even though he was saying what he wanted, what was coming back was his actual belief was that he was lacking in money, that he wasn't good enough. And so that's the problem with manifestation is that you what you're saying has to also match your heart, which is why I've talked a little bit about working on your first three chakra centers, right? To get to where you're doing heart-centered manifestation, to where when things happen, you're trying to reach for the love first. It doesn't mean you're always going to do it, but when someone like blows a horn at you, you don't go. you go, "Oh, I'm sorry." They're probably in a rush. That you're bringing things back to being like, "Oh, I remember a time that I probably blew the horn at somebody else and it was unjustified. I probably remember a time that I probably didn't put my basket away right." You just start remembering times that you played loud music going through a neighborhood and maybe irritated people, and yeah, now you're 40 and like, "Turn down the music." So those things start coming back to you. But if you haven't like taken that time to like go back into your heart, you're not. Everything is judgy. We were talking about that with the one barista I was talking about, where being raised as a witness, that everything is judgy. One of the last times I was with them, we were driving down the street from field service, and there was a really pretty woman on the side. She had these tattoos, and she just looked really nice and cute. And one of the women goes, she's not getting into paradise." And I was like, why? Why would you say, why am I with these people? But that's horrible to say about, we're supposed to be bringing everybody into Jehovah's love. No one is unworthy. And so those type of things, can manifest because she was really good at manifesting, but what she's manifesting is negativity. What they're manifesting, what they're wanting was the end of the world in the revelation fashion, where like we're being tortured and chased and it's scary, and they want that end of the world thing, and that's what they're trying to manifest. Luckily, not enough of them believed in it to really bring that out there. So instead, they were able to manifest little things for themselves. I think I've talked about that they really believe. We talked about the placebo effect, about how your ability of your mind to handle pain. They talked about that because in relation to torture, if you were being tortured, that you should be able to handle the pain because it's mind over matter, which is Joe witnesses your children sit right next to you. So I learned this from infancy. Some crazy stuff. But we were talking about that level of manifestation, that level of belief, and what that can actually do, and why Joe witnesses were really good at manifesting a lot of stuff. But being careful about what you're manifesting and what you're bringing out, and making sure that that's a love centered thing. One of the reasons why we gatekeep too is I I love hiking. I hike a lot. I don't know if you guys saw a few years ago those men in Utah that pushed over those famous rocks because they said that they almost fell on them. And then there was a couple years ago those men that chopped down that famous tree in England. And so that's why people gatekeep. They gatekeep because we're worried that like someone will go in and kill the last tortoise. Tortoise. That's why people gatekeep. And so understanding when where to do that and whether or not it's our place has always been kind of a balancing point for me. And so that's why this manifestation episode is so late in the series, just because I really wanted to feel comfortable about giving out these manifestation tips, and give out enough cautionary tales to make sure people are really thinking about what they're manifesting before they really get into like writing down those big goal dreams, making sure that those inner things are going well, that they actually are going to be aiming for the things they want. And so that brings me to my other example, is this story on NPR that I heard. And it was just like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was this family, and she said, we drive down a wonderful neighborhood where all the houses are neatly in a row, and there's a Tesla in almost every driveway. And we pull into this driveway, and there's a Tesla in this driveway. And we go into the house, and there's a husband and wife, and there's a charcuterie plate out, which is the cheese and the meat. Now this is a radio show, so we can't see it. And she says there's several juices on the cabinet also for us to choose from. And they told us to, get what we want. And then they proceed to tell her how they do not have the American dream. Because they don't own their house. They have a child right there, and they have a second child on the way because she's pregnant. But they don't have the American dream because they don't own their house. And he picked a safe job. And so he deserved the American dream because he was a pharmacist. He didn't do his dream. He picked a safe job so he could, have a family. And then he wasn't happy because he didn't get his dream. And, we don't own it. And I was like, ooh, first of all, that is better than like, I don't know how much percentage of the world, I don't want to guess, but a lot of the percentage of the world would love that. Just that right there. Just like the house with the car and the wife and the kids it was pretty fantastic. And then the further, that, he did that to be safe, and so he's safe. Like he has a safe life and he's safe, a safe car. And then of course my business sense came out. And this is where just like personal like things, if you just like are going, if you're really trying to like get things in order, don't get the kids before the house. I know it's hard. I run a daycare, so I know it's hard. but they're real expensive. And if you do the kids before the house, the chances of the house coming for a while is hard. So it just, keep those in mind, like ordered steps. But it was just so sad to hear them talk about not having the American dream when they literally were living the American dream. I was like, what is that? Is that not a recognition of how great you have it? And that's the problem with manifestation is sometimes people manifest and get to a point where they have their stuff and they're unhappy. And I've seen that on multiple occasions where people have their dream jobs or their dream lives or their dream houses, but they weren't happy before they got it. And now that they have it, they're happy for maybe a month, few months, or a year, or but then slowly it's just not, and they're not happy because they weren't happy before they had it. So that's one of the reasons why I've just been so cautious about giving out manifestation techniques. But everybody else is giving them out. And one of the examples that I had in my head that I was like, you're just gonna need to give out the manifestation techniques was I was going through TikTok. And it was talking about manifestation and how important it is to work from your heart center and how to get right with and someone was like, you don't need to. You can manifest from darkness. You can manifest from hatred and vengeance and anger. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Yes, you can. That's what villains do. Like, I understand you can, but if hate is the thing that you use, even if hate is what you use to make things right, hate is going to taint all of the things in there. So just keeping those things in mind when you're doing it is that all those things are all intertwined. So you want love to be the leading center. So when you get to the top spot, it's love. One of my other examples is the Seahawks, which I absolutely loved. The Legion of Boom. And, they all played with a chip on their shoulder, and as they got better and better, and people just started clapping for them instead of being upset at them, instead of saying they weren't good enough, it became harder and harder for them to showcase. They had to post things about somebody wrote something mean about them in some article, and they'd have to post that in the locker room to get themselves up because they played with the chip on the shoulder, and that's how they got there. And once they got to the top, the chip wasn't really there anymore. The chip didn't really work anymore. Now, before we get to the next part, which is going to be talking about actual manifestation techniques, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a reminder about how the universe works. Sierra, can you play that video for us?
This is the first object that you can see that has been in a mechanical quantum superposition. So we're looking at a computer chip, and you can sort of see this green dot right in the middle, and that's this piece of metal I'm going to be talking about in a minute. This is a photograph of the object, and here I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We're looking right there in the center, and then here's a really, really big close-up of the little piece of metal. So what we're looking at is a little chunk of metal, and it's shaped like a diving board and sticking out over a ledge. And so I made this thing in nearly the same way as you make a computer chip. I went into a clean room with a fresh silicon wafer, and then I just cranked away at all the big machines for about 100 hours. For the last step, I had to build my own machine to make this swimming pool-shaped hole underneath the device. This device has the ability to be in a quantum superposition, but it needs a little help to do it. Here, let me give you an analogy. You know how uncomfortable it is to be in a crowded elevator? I mean, when I'm in an elevator all alone, I do all sorts of weird things, but then other people get on board, and I stop doing those things because I don't want to bother them or, frankly, scare them. So quantum mechanics says that inanimate objects feel the same way. The fellow passengers for inanimate objects are not just people, but it's also the light shining on it and the wind blowing past it and the heat of the room. And so we knew if we wanted to see this piece of metal behave quantum mechanically, we're going to have to kick out all the other passengers. And so that's what we did. We turned off the lights, and then we put it in vacuum and sucked out all the air, and then we cooled it down to just a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. Now, all alone in the elevator, the little chunk of metal was free to act however it wanted. And so we measured its motion. We found it was moving in really weird ways. Instead of just sitting perfectly still, it was vibrating. And the way it was vibrating was breathing, something like this, like expanding and contracting bellows. And by giving it a gentle nudge, we were able to make it both vibrate and not vibrate at the same time, something that's only allowed with quantum mechanics. So what I'm telling you here is something truly fantastic. I mean, what does it mean for one thing to be both vibrating and not vibrating at the same time? So let's think about the atoms. So in one case, all the trillions of atoms that make up that chunk of metal are just sitting still.
Or you.
Now, at the same time, those same atoms are moving up and down. Now, it's only
Or
at
you.
precise times when they align. The rest of the time, they're delocalized. So that means that every atom is in two different places at the same time, which in turn means the entire chunk of metal is in two different places. I think this is really cool. I mean, really. It was worth locking myself in a clean room to do this for all those years. Because check this out. The difference in scale between a single atom and that chunk of metal is about the same as the difference between that chunk of metal and you. So if a single atom can be in two different places at the same time, that chunk of metal can be in two different places, then why not you? I mean, this is just my logical side talking. So imagine if you were in multiple places at the same time. What would that be like? How would your consciousness handle your body being delocalized in space? There's one more part to the story. Is when we warmed it up and we turned on the lights and looked inside the box, we saw that the piece of metal was still there in one piece. And so, I had to develop this new intuition that it seems like all the objects in the elevator are really just quantum objects, just crammed into a tiny space. You hear a lot of talk about how quantum mechanics says that everything is all interconnected. Well, that's not quite right. It's more than that. It's deeper. It's that those connections, your connections to all the things around you, literally define who you are. And that's the profound weirdness of quantum mechanics. Thank you. This is the first object.
So just before we go to break, just the idea that not only was it the only thing, but that then he's the only one in the elevator. And if he's the only one in the elevator, he's the only one in the building. And if he's the only one in the building, then he's the only one in the city. And if he's the only one in the city, he's the only one on the planet. And with that, we'll take a break. This is Love and Lighting, a Transformation Talk Radio with Nicole Pelham. We'll be right back. We're back on Love and Lightning Transformation Talk Radio. I'm Nicole Pelham, and now finally, you're like, can she just get to the manifestations? Just tell us how to get the money. Like, blah, 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 heart, blah, 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 mind coordination, blah, blah, blah. I need to have just tell me how to get the money. All right, that's where we are. We are at that point. These are called manifestation techniques that I have been using recently, just in the last couple of years, that have really been wonderful. I did talk about Ho'oponopono. If you never looked that one up, that is a Hawaiian meditation. It's really wonderful. It's a great prayer where you forgive yourself and you forgive others. And that is, of course, that's one of those chakra steps, right, that I keep talking about. So that's why it helps to manifest. And it helps you to manifest what you actually want and not what you don't want. So Ho'oponopono is a wonderful meditation. I did that with a teacher. Man, I never can say his last name. He won the Super Bowl with the Steelers. His first name is Chucky. His last name is Okubo, I think. But he has a spiritual, like a sports spiritual program that he takes people through, and I did that with him, and it was really wonderful. And one of the manifestations was this house. Was that I wrote down that I wanted this house. I was going to sit in a house that overlooked the ocean on a cliffside, and I was going to wake up every morning and sip hot chocolate, and that's what I do pretty much every day. And I bought this house 3 years ago. So it was about 2 years after I started doing the Ho'oponopono before I got this house. But like I said, this house was going to come. I had this manifestation. I knew I was going to have a house on the water my whole life, that was going to happen. So I just, it wasn't something where it just happened way earlier than I thought it would. So that was what was really wonderful. So Ho'oponopono is a great meditation and a great manifestation technique if you're looking for something to get you started. The other manifestation techniques and the manifestation techniques I've been using this year is something from Abrams. I don't know, it's not JJ Abrams. From Abrams, and she does meditation. She channels a spirit. I don't remember what her spirit's name is, but Balik Bashar, she channels a spirit. and that spirit, introduces meditation techniques. One of the biggest ones was just like, it's not your job. When it's not your job, stop worrying about it. So that's been something that I use a lot right now, especially because we're in the middle of a big construction project over in Auburn, opening up a second center. And it's not my job to figure out how the pipes work or when the roof gets done. My job is to tell them to get the job done and to pay them. And that's it, to make decisions about what I want. And when there's a disaster or something like that, I go, oh, okay, but you guys are going to fix it, right? And then 2, 3 days later, it gets fixed because that's not my job. The universe has got it, and that's their job. So that was one that I really loved. The money manifestation she had was vortex. Um, oh man, I should just throw in my diaries and just show it. So, uh, my vortex is when I first heard this over and over again. I've been listening to her for a while since the pandemic, so it's been 3 or 4 years of listening to her talk about the vortex, and then I was like, hey, is she talking about like a tornado? And I think maybe I had a tornado dream or something. It was like, but tornadoes are so destructive. Hey, thinking of Jamaica right now with them going through the hurricane. But tornadoes are so destructive; they just tear up everything around it. I don't want a tornado, and she doesn't call it a tornado; she calls it a vortex. Man, like a vortex, like that thing at like the store where you throw the coins in and they spin down into the thing and then they gather at the bottom. Okay, that a vortex. So above me is a grand vortex that the universe tosses things into, and those things funnel down to me. And so I started doing that manifestation technique, I think, beginning of this year. And pretty much immediately, it was quite a large sum of money that appeared. A couple $1,000s here, a couple $1,000s there. Oh, it was my daycare. My daycare received a grant from me and my teachers, which will come out to $28,000 per teacher. So that was a pretty big. I mean, that's a pretty big chunk of money that we got like from that manifestation. My sister and stuff would be like, "Well, you entered the grant," and I'd be like, "Yes, I did," but they only picked one. I think it was 14 centers out of the hundreds of daycares in Washington State that got that. So, that one is one that I really enjoy. So, when I draw that one, I draw a vortex above me, just a cute little stick figure that represents me. And then I use things like coins, dollar bills. I use hearts for love. I use stars for health. And I use Merkabas for magic. And I have those things just kind of like falling down the vortex and gathering around me in little piles. I add that vortex to another meditation that I had that I can't remember where I heard this one, but it was a person talking about the Bible's verse about pouring out, and the man was like, it just, God pours into my cup, and then, I'm just pouring my cup out, and then my cup's empty, and then God fills it back up, but then I pour it out, and it seems like my cup is always empty. And she says, I'm gonna stop you. Where does it say for you to pour the cup out? It says the cup runneth over, as in the universe pours the stuff in and the stuff pours out. And like a after she did that, I was like, oh cool. So like if you're like on the top of a pyramid of wine glasses, right? The universe is pouring the good stuff down to you. And then when your wine glass fills up, it pours to your closest close people, your closest friends. And then when it fills up their cups, it flows to their closest friends and their closest friends. And so on and so forth. The goodness continues to flow. And so I was like, yeah, that's how I imagine manifestation. So that was one that I did actually that was the one I did before we received the grant for the teachers. Was I was like, I get a lot of wonderful manifestations, and that's great and wonderful, but I also would like these manifestations to flow to the people who have been loyal to me, who have they've done a great job. I have teachers who've been with me for over a decade. A couple they've been with me for over 20 years. And so I was like, no, I really want them to get rewards. And then this we like it was like the next week that we got this grant. So that's a one that I really like, and I really enjoy that one because I feel like it's very easy to ensure that gives good stuff to the people around you. So that's one that I really encourage people to work on visualization, to do that in your meditations, to sit and imagine, good stuff piling up. Pretty easy to imagine, like piles of coins and money beside you while you're doing meditation. And that's filling up your cup and then spilling out to those closest to you. So that's a really wonderful one. Remembering that money isn't real is also super important. Something my mom used to say was that money, they say money doesn't grow on trees. It's made out of cotton. Cotton. It's it's still made out of cotton and paper. So we it grows. It's just grown. It actually is easier to grow than a tree. So, yeah, cotton. So, it's not something that you need to worry about, and they print it whenever they want to. So, remembering that money isn't real, especially as we get to this digital age where money is like flowing around and doing whatever, money is not real. The other manifestation technique that I just started recently that I want to share is something I saw on TikTok, which was that you are on God's payroll. And I believe that I'm not just God's payroll, but like God's plural, like the gods and goddesses that love me, like Erin Hood, goddess of time, and Lakshmi, and Sophie, the Spider Woman, all the goddesses that seem to like appear in my life, and Jehovah, which I do still love very much for the creation of the world and for the guidance I had in my younger life. And so, the gods. And so I was like, I'm okay, yeah. I want to be on God's payroll. And really, I feel like I need $1,111 a week extra, just like that money just comes. And it'd be great if I got that. The next day, I receive a phone call from someone who I had written off. They owe me some money, $1,200 for a project. They had gotten hurt really bad, and so I, had kind of been like, well, they're probably just never going to get the money back. I sent them a thing, I think last July, I'd sent them a message being like, hey, I really could use that money because, I'm trying to remodel my house, but I know that things are rough for you. So, if you could pay it back, that'd be great. But I'd forgotten all about it. The next day, he calls, is like, hey, can I come by and give you cash? And he just appears at my house and hands me $1,200 in cash. That continued with a little tiny check of 150 from some company that messed up and owes me a little bit of money. And then I received a check from Costco, which I was sure we'd already received, for another $1,000. And then I received a check from an insurance company where they said they messed up and had overcharged me until they owed me $1,000. And so it was like, wow, that was that was quick. That was instant. My manifestations do seem to come about a week or two after I ask for them. If I'm fully in the belief that they're gonna come, there are some things that I still think I might have some working on to believe, to inner self work to go on. But usually, if I believe, the manifestations come pretty quickly. So those are manifestation techniques that I think that you could try that should work out well. They shouldn't bring anything evil to your life or bad to your life. You should be able to focus, even if you are in the lower chakras, you still should not be able to bring evil or bad to other people. So I feel very good about giving out those manifestation techniques. Um, Other manifestation techniques I will be giving out. I'm going to be doing a retreat later on next year that I want to do probably over here at a Black Wellness Retreat area in Auburn. And another retreat that I probably will do over in Seattle that will be retreats and talking about how life's a video game. So stay tuned for those, but go ahead and give those techniques a try. If they're wonderful and they work for you, please, please send the show or me an email. With that, we're going to take a little break and come to our fourth segment. It's almost homework time. Love and Lightning on Transformation Talk Radio. We'll be right back. Back to Love and Lightning on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm Nicole, and it's segment 4. Me and Sarah were just discussing this show goes so fast. But when she was talking to me, she did give me something else to talk to you guys about, just a little bit. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But it is homework time. I need to go back through and see what movies I've even assigned to you guys. I don't really remember. but but I need to go back and look at all the movies because I think that's gonna make a really nice little movie list of like movies, spiritual type movies that you can watch that just uplift you or get you in different moods that just make you kind of remember that it's gonna be okay, that you have all the power here, that this is that, like we were just discussing, it's only you in the elevator. You can be as crazy as you want to. I am. My sister said the other day, what was I doing? Oh, we were at VECU and I needed to stretch my legs. So I was like stretching on things. She goes, you are being a special kid right now. And I was like, oh, am I? And I just kept stretching because I don't care. I don't care. I'm the only one here. I'm all of you are just different versions of me, and you're going, wow, look at that weirdo. Wow, look at that weirdo. Oh, wow, look at that weirdo. Ooh, look at that weirdo. I like that weirdo. That's like I don't care. So I literally encourage people to try really hard to get to that point where you just remember that everybody is just you. I think about that when I'm doing this podcast. That literally me and Sierra are talking every once in a while, but I'm only really talking to myself. I don't know who will ever see this. I could have 0 followers on it. I don't know. But I really am just talking to myself. I write these scripts for myself. And a lot of this stuff is stuff for me, just to like remind me of what things I believe in. That I'll get to look back on in 10, 15 years and see if that still applies for me. So it's just one of those things that, this is just a really fun game and just to enjoy it as much as possible. But when we say we're talking in the break, we were talking about manifestation techniques, and we talked a little bit about items. There's a lot of items. I was just in this wonderful Mexican store, and there were all these candles. I was like, wow! I mean, literally, like the bread store. Only if those were a row of candles. I was like, wow! Look at all these candles for manifestation. But yeah, right now in my house, candles are kind of dangerous, and I don't need candles for manifestation. That's not like it's not the way I believe because Jehovah Witnesses, like I said, were really good at manifesting and used nothing. They didn't wear crosses because they believed that crosses were idol worship. They believed that the golden calf meant that you have no items, no pictures of Jesus up on your wall. You just have the Bible, and then, of course, all the books that they make to tell you what the Bible says. But that was the way that it was. And so I already knew that you didn't need items to manifest. They are fun. And that's what I tell people is to get these items because they are fun. Get crystals because they are fun and they feel really nice to hold. And now we know that they do hold a vibration that is influencing the other vibrations around them. Like, even actually, as I'm holding this, there is sparkles happening like all around. Like, oh, why am I getting little sparkles while I'm holding these two little crystals? So, and I mean, if anybody's ever done the quartz thing where you crack a quartz in the dark, that it gets little sparks. Most of the components in your phone are made out of little crystals. So just understanding those things is super important for manifestation. That it needs to be fun. If it's something where it's a drudgery and you gotta do, then you're probably not going to manifest what you want. It needs to be something joyful and you're excited to do it. Otherwise, move on to something else. Remembering that people are manifesting all around the world with all sorts of different techniques. And so even though here in America we think it's Jesus, it's actually just the qubits, and they don't care about good or evil or wrong or right. They just want to know what you want, and then they're going to give it to you. So just keep those things in mind. With that, oh my goodness, let's go ahead and show the homework. The homework, I have two homeworks again because the adult homework, I mean, the is two. Yeah, don't show that to kids. Please don't show paranoid agent to children. It's not good. But for the children, I have bolts. So Sierra, can you show them the bolt trailer, please?
Bolt, speak.
Bolt was super cute. Um, it's a very interesting movie because, of course, the whole thing is that Bolt believes that Bolt is actually a superhero. And he's not a superhero, but he is a hero. And so, just the idea of that, I thought that was a really cute one. I almost did K-pop Demon Hunters. I really loved K-pop Demon Hunters. I loved the flow of it. I loved how the crowd was influenced and how important it is because I was just posting a thing about He-Man, and He-Man was like, "You can all be leaders, but when you're a follower, make sure that you are following for the right reasons, and make sure you don't do bad things because you're told to." And I was like, "Dude, He-Man, yeah, right." And so the idea to remember that even when you're not leading, that you're still doing the things that you feel are right, that you're not allowing yourself to be pulled astray, which with K-pop Demon Hunters was happening, right? The fans are going back and forth instead of just being like, no, I like this, like that's great. I also like that, but like they were very pushed back and forth with the flow. So making sure that you're not that. You don't want to be pushed with the ebb and flow of the world. You do want to have a way to keep yourself centered and keep yourself ruddered. Sierra, can you play the other homework for the adults? This one is Paranoid Agent. It's a anime series, so it's a little bit longer. So much like a K-pop Demon Hunter, this one has a lot of mass paranoia, a lot of people being swept away in the flow, and how quickly that can get out of hand, and how you need to make sure that, especially if you're one of the light workers, that you're anchoring in the manifestations that you want. Um, that's why it's important to do any of that inner work that we talked about with those first three chakras, because those anxieties, those angers, those fears, they will just get in there and they'll just taint your manifestations just a little bit. It's not that you can't fix it or tweak it, it's just it'll be easier and faster to fix those things and then manifest than it will be to be trying to get the manifestations tweaked that you've already made from a place of anger, from a place of sadness, from a place of vengefulness, from a place of I'm better, I gotta show everybody that I'm the best. That manifestation, that's very powerful. But how happy will you be when you get there, when you get to the spot that you actually want to, and how happy was the journey all the way there? And that's why you want to be in the love, so that the journey itself is fun too, so that you're not just I'm angry about getting to the destination. Now I'm gonna show them that you're like, you know what, this is really fun, and you know what, that's a little setback, but I'm doing what makes my soul happy and what makes me really enjoy that. With that, we're gonna go ahead and let you guys go. Oh, last is the second to last show. So we still see you guys next week at 4 p.m. I mean, 2 weeks from now at 4 p.m. With that, love and lightning on Transformation Talk Radio. We'll go ahead and sign off. Remember to ask the universe for what you want. Listen to the cubits and spirits and have them light your way. Have a wonderful 2 weeks, and we'll see you then. Thank you for listening to Love and Lightning with Nicole. Catch us every second and fourth Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. If today lit something inside you, subscribe, share, or like, and spread the spark. Ready to be inspired? Take next steps? Check us out at loveandlightning.com. Check out my books, music, upcoming events, and let's stay connected on my social media. You can find me at Bad Vegan Nikki or lovealightning.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.